Okay, ready. I'm Wesley Morris, and this is Cannonball. Is it possible that I have seen the best movie of 2025? Paul Thomas Anderson's got a new movie. It's called One Battle After Another. The premise is that Leonardo DiCaprio is this washed-up revolutionary, like a leftist revolutionary. 15 years earlier, he was bombing his way around LA.
We used to run around and do some real bad shit together. They got her, now they're coming after us.
And had a baby with another revolutionary who's played by Teyana Taylor.
Bitch, I felt like Tony Montana.
Two names never thought I was gonna say in a row next to each other, and now, she's trying to eat his face. They get separated, they're both in hiding, but the government, the military, repped by a ripped Sean Penn,
I'll be seeing you very soon.
they've never stopped looking for them. Is this the best movie of the year? Is it instantly Paul Thomas Anderson's best movie? I'm gonna work this out with my pal Sean Fennessey, who loves himself some PTA too. Sean hosts the Big Picture podcast with Amanda Dobbins and is the Ringer's head of content, but today, Sean is my PTA co-conspirator and co-celebrant. Sean, welcome to Cannonball!
Yes, we're here, and we're here for Paul Thomas Anderson. This is so wonderful. Hi, Wesley.
Hi. I don't know if you and I have ever talked about this. I feel like I've mentioned this to you, but maybe a dozen years ago, I was talking to, I won't name who I was talking to, but I was talking to a person who works in the movie industry, very, very well placed within it, a filmmaker. And he was telling me a story that he had heard that every time Paul Thomas Anderson wants to make a movie, he goes to some studio and the studio or the executives talk to each other and they're like, I got another Paul Thomas Anderson script. Is there any way I can trade you for something else? And the other person is like, nah, dude, I just did a PTA. Nobody doesn't want to not make one. But making a lot of them because, they cost a lot, but they don't make a lot, right?
Look, being a studio executive is a tricky job. I know executives who were responsible for becoming the studio that would make a PTA movie. And they're really nice guys who like movies. And they're usually guys, for the record. But it's a bottom line business, and everyone's afraid to get fired. And taking on a Paul Thomas Anderson movie in the past could get you fired. It doesn't matter how many Oscar nominations you get. It doesn't matter what Wesley Morris's review in the New York Times says about the film. It's, did it make any money? That's how these people are graded on their jobs. And Paul Thomas Anderson's movies don't make money. That's just a fact. They mean the world to me, but they don't make any money. I think Anderson is very rare in this case, where he is kind of a great artist who everyone agrees is among the best, if not the very best from his generation, who's never really had a money maker. If you go down the list of his contemporaries, if you look at Quentin Tarantino or David Fincher or Steven Soderbergh, Sofia Coppola's movies sometimes make more money than Paul Thomas Anderson's movies. He just has never had a big winner. And this is one that could change that dynamic. But until now, it's not surprising to hear you recount that story about the way that they were all kind of passing him around like the toxic potato of Hollywood geniuses.
Well,
but
yeah, it's sort of like, this might be an interesting time to sort of think about where this movie sits in the world of Paul Thomas Anderson. And I was thinking about what my three favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movies are. If I had to rank them, I'd probably start this way. I'd probably go
hit me with it. Come on, do it. Just do it.
The
Just
Master,
tear the Band-Aid off.
The Master, There Will Be Blood, Inherent Vice. Those are my three.
Those all came together, right? Those three were released consecutively.
Yep.
So we're close. We match on 2 out of 3. Right now, I think my number 3 would be Phantom Thread. My number 2 would be The Master. My number 1 would be There Will Be Blood. Now, that can change.
Of course it can. Don't etch that in stone for me.
I look at There Will Be Blood and I'm like, masterpiece, right? Masterwork. And, the perfect actor, the perfect setting, the perfect, a guy who is of California telling the story of California's power in such a discreet way. Just a genius, perfect movie, right?
Yeah.
But Am I bored of myself for having that opinion? A little bit.
A little bit, but listen. You sit down with There Will Be Blood, and just those first 5 minutes that are just pure darkness, and this is somebody birthing something into the light by digging down. You don't even know what you're watching, by the way. You have no idea what this sound is. You have no idea what the image is going to turn out to be. And you're watching, oh my God, like, or we should just watch some of it.
Yeah, there's the pickaxe and the sparking in the granite tunnel. The Sisyphean act of trying to make one's own future in this terrible country. Come on. The metaphor, it leaps out at you in the first 30 seconds.
It's not terrible. I mean, it will not be terrible for him. He is the terror, right? Like, this is like the devil climbing up to earth, essentially, right? This is what we're watching. We're watching the devil birth himself. You know, he's basically digging for, you know, the stuff.
He's looking for gold.
Yeah.
He's looking for gold. He's looking for gold, and he stumbles upon the gold of the 20th century. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? Is that it's the transition.
The black gold.
The black gold. Yeah, it's a transition from one industrial era of this country to another, and the way in which that power was seized and controlled. And in the form of Daniel Plainview, who is evil, but also a person that we really come to understand in a very broken way.
It just is a bold biblical act here. And I think about it all the time when I think about a movie's great opening minutes. But I think the thing that makes it like a very interesting and characteristic Paul Thomas Anderson scene is that you could never have predicted it. It has no antecedent. You don't know exactly why you're watching it. And you don't know where it's gonna take you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a sort of characteristic Paul Thomas Anderson trait, characteristic that like seems that you can locate in a sequence or a scene in a movie?
I want to talk about something that's not in my top 3, and this is a light bulb moment over my head scene in my lifetime.
Oh, okay.
Which is the New Year's Eve party on December 31st, 1979 in Boogie Nights.
One of the most stressful sequences. It's up there.
It's up there.
Okay.
It starts, I think, at 11:57 p.m. And Little Bill, who's played by William H. Macy, is wandering through this house looking for his wife. You can hear this Charles Wright song playing called Do Your Thing, which starts out like a traditional kind of 70s funk song. And over time transforms into this very, very erratic, exciting guitar breakdown. And Little Bill finds his wife, and she's doing something he doesn't want her to be doing.
Poor Little Bill, by the way.
And now listen to the song as it's concluding, this kind of guitar freak out. And then he blows his brains out on the last note of the song.
There's one thing about this scene that obviously immediately stands out as being classic Paul Thomas Anderson, and it's not the single take. It's the soundtrack. It's the use of music. I mean, it's just virtuosic, his understanding of both music as performed by musicians and music as given to you by great actors, right?
I think PTA is very good at blending the obscurantist, unusual needle drop with the hammerhead, this is so obvious it's perfect. And this new movie concludes with Tom Petty's American Girl.
Yes.
And it's the most on the nose and yet exhilarating way to conclude this movie.
Think about who the American Girl is now, right?
And who is it? It's maybe not who Tom was thinking of, but it is who Paul is thinking of.
Right.
And it's an ingenious little stroke to conclude the movie.
What else about this scene is interesting to you? I mean, because there's the violence of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of it's kind of funny until you know that not to laugh anymore.
That's what it is. I mean, we've already seen Little Bill get humiliated and played for laughs, but Macy, who is a very gestural actor, who kind of moves his hands and his body. Think of him in Fargo and the way that he's kind of stammering, and he's stock still in his performance here when he goes out to get the gun in the car. He doesn't move. He doesn't react. He doesn't react to the gunshots. He is distraught, and he has decided that it's over. And PTA is like in his mid-20s when he's making this movie.
Yeah.
You know, like he
Yeah.
understands something about people, about broken people, that I still find so exciting and so rare. And this is like it's a movie about sex and bodies, and there are not a lot of movies about that.
No, you mean wait? You're
30
talking about
years.
Boogie Nights, or you're talking about
Both.
One
Both.
battle after another? Yes, because
Both, all of the movies.
yes, I mean like the ways in which like these relationships break down. Okay, wait, hold on. I actually would like to think more about Paul Thomas Anderson and where One Battle After Another goes in the scheme of him, and like maybe even where it goes in the scheme of maybe like the last, I don't know, some other phase of American movies, because he's operating at a level that there aren't very many other people even trying to at the moment. I'm going to confess something to you.
Okay.
I was not looking forward to seeing this movie.
Oh no. Why?
Well, I think it's a couple things. One, I might have masterpiece fatigue. He's made at least 3. And I'm okay. I did not love Licorice Pizza. I thought, okay, well, he's now at a point where he's just going to just be happy to be making movies, but maybe he said everything and he's achieved his ambitions. They've been met already. But setting that aside, I was also kind of miffed by, because the way I experienced this movie even existing was through the ads. I saw a trailer before one movie. And I saw the poster. And on the poster, there's a giant Leonardo DiCaprio head. And I just thought, you know what? God damn you, movie industry. You're putting all your hopes, or a lot of your hopes, you know, on this movie to make some money, because that's where we are now. An industry that didn't care about Paul Thomas Anderson as an industrial concern is now turning him into one and teaming him with this like, you know, very still bankable movie star. And I just was like, I don't know what kind of compromises had to be made to pull this off. And then I went and I was wrong. It's a great movie.
It's an exceptional movie.
Like, what were you like? How were you feeling before you got to the movie theater?
Always trepidatious whenever someone that you love is taking a big risk, you know?
Okay.
And he's a filmmaker I just have a very big emotional relationship with.
Yes.
And every movie is an event for me when he makes one. But he's never made anything like this before. He's never made a $150 million movie with the biggest star in the world that is an action film. And forget about all of the real world reflections and consequences that are depicted. I wasn't even sure how much of that would make its way into this movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
So once you know that too, sure, it's a little bit tremor making if you're a big fan of someone like this. And yet, he's never really disappointed me. You know, we can talk about which ones we like the most and which ones we think are the least successful, but Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't have any bad movies. So I wasn't like actually nervous. I just want this to work because it would be so great for everything that I believe in for this movie to work.
Okay.
And here we are, and it worked.
So what, I mean, when you're talking about like what you believe in, what does that entail?
I think that filmmaking and movies are an art form and also the most interesting mass cultural enterprise that America's ever created. And so like you take the person who's the best at making movies and you take the person who is the best at selling movies with his face and you smash them together. And then it just so happens that they've made something that is exactly about the modern condition and the world that we live in. And it's like it's a magical stew. It's an unlikely thing to happen. And it happens very rarely in this thing that you and I have been thinking about and talking about and writing about for so many years.
Well, we should talk about like what actually is happening in this movie. I think that the first half hour of this thing, in classic Paul Thomas Anderson form, he blasts out of the gate.
Just when you think you got a handle on things.
And this might be the best starting bell of all 10 movies. This is his 10th film. We should say he's 55 years old. I would say he's probably at his directorial peak in some way.
He knows the most he's going to know. Yeah.
Yeah, but this one, it just comes out of the gate real hot. It's 2010, these would be in our world, the Obama years, but this movie is also kind of identifying the constancy and chronicness of the assorted crises. So it doesn't matter really in some ways who the president is, because these problems have always been here. And, at some point we're like at the US-Mexico border, and the government just feels like it just feels like there's a war on, and the war is against the people. The people are this set of people are at war with the government, and it just feels like you are like very alongside these leftists, as there's a migrant detention center, and they are basically raiding the migrant detention center to liberate the people who are there. And it's just quite clear in this tense, stressful, chaotic atmosphere that the leftists, they are not fucking around. They mean every single thing they do here.
Justice to the vigilante group known as the French 75.
In that first 30 minutes, you're getting all these characters. You're getting the members of this terrorist organization. You're learning the people in the government outfit that we need to pay attention to, primarily played by Sean Penn, whose character's name is it Lieutenant General Captain Stephen Lockjaw?
I think it's Colonel.
Colonel. I named them all but the right one. Colonel Stephen Lockjaw. What a great name. And Sean Penn does not need method acting to know what to do with a character named Stephen Lockjaw.
His posture alone is locked jaw for sure.
This is the first time I understand what it means to use a phrase like that. And I don't know. I just found the energy of this thing exciting. I also like that for those first 30 minutes, Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of an afterthought. And the dominant presence is Teyana Taylor, who is like cut from a diamond and is just such a strong, physical, dynamic, charismatic presence. You are completely magnetized by her. I was jealous of anybody who had never seen her before, because they would go to this movie and will be experiencing her for the first time. Those cheekbones, those lips, and I don't know. I just you're watching this happen and you're seeing her take over this movie, or not even take it over. It's her movie for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that struck me the first time that I saw it was not just the attention that is focused on her character and how she is very much the engine of the movie for the first 45 minutes or so, but there's a moment shortly after they pull off this kind of raid liberation on that migrant detention center that you were referring to, and they get in the car together, and she begins to embrace DiCaprio, Ghetto Pat, her Ghetto Pat. And the way that she kisses him,
oh my God,
open-mouthed, tongue out. It's like she's treating him like a scoop of ice cream.
I mean,
and it's so physical, and to encourage her to do that, or if that was her choice, to see her with that kind of physical power, both holding a gun and also eating
Leonardo DiCaprio's face.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's an announcement of what kind of a movie this is. And I found it thrilling. I mean, Teyana Taylor is somebody like I used to write about music. I've followed her career as an R&B artist over the years. I think I assigned a profile of her in Vibe magazine in 2008. She's been around for a long time. She's wonderful in 1001, A.B. Rockwell's movie from a couple of years ago. She's a good actor, but this is easily the most high-profile thing that she's done. And you're right, she owns this movie for a stretch. And a militant black woman owning a movie from Warner Brothers in 2025 that's a big deal. That's not something to be overlooked.
No, and I also think that there's a correspondent historical dimension to this too, right? I mean, this is a person, Paul Thomas Anderson, who knows the history of the movies. His favorite, aesthetically, his favorite decade to draw from is the 1970s, a period during which, that includes the blaxploitation era. And he would have seen this, the great movies that would feature people like Pam Grier and Tamara Dobson, and perhaps wonder, as I have many a time, where's the beef? You've got these great women in these movies, and all they're doing is being mannequins. And the rarity of and the scarcity of roles for Black women during that period is kind of what makes someone like Pam Grier or Tamara Dobson, and it makes them iconic. But then you watch the movies and it's really like Pam Grier throwing women over tables, and she's got a few lines. But the question that this movie kind of answers in some ways, what would it look like for the radical politics of an era like that to find a narrative engine, right? And to have those women who were in clear control of the plots of those movies actually have politics to match them, while also not, skimping on the sexuality that at least this character is committed to, and the movie commits to it, and the ways in which white men in particular respond to her. Because what this is a love triangle in the most generic possible description of this, between DiCaprio and Sean Penn's character, who discovers her planning a bomb, and is like, but I'll let you go, ma'am, if you you service me a little bit. And she's like, let me think about that.
Well, the movie is clearly very heavily inspired by Thomas Pynchon's Vineland, which is a novel set during the 1980s, very much about the sort of aftermath of 1960s radicals and how they kind of either reintegrate or have struggled to reintegrate into society.
During the Reagan era. During the Reagan
Yes.
era, right.
The movie, though, the portrayal of Teyana Taylor's character is very interesting because this is not what you might expect from a movie right now, which is that this is a person of pure leftist virtue, right? And that it's politics all the way down and her beliefs driving action. She's much more nuanced than that. And so I think that there's a way to look at her and say, this is a rat, this is a person who's selfish, and the movie is tangling with this idea of, is she actually attracted to Stephen Lockjaw? Is she actually more about saving herself than the movement or her family?
There's
it is
no
kind of
one
confronting
answer.
you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not.
There's no one
It's
answer.
forcing you to think about it, right? Which is very unusual. Right now, we would think if you would put someone as strong and as powerful seeming as Teyana Taylor in a movie, in a role where she's the change agent, that she should be the hero. And she's not the hero of the movie.
I don't think this movie has any heroes really at all. I think the point at which the movie pivots is her relationship with this colonel, right? This highly improbable, this is how the source material is Thomas Pynchon, because only in the world of the man who wrote Gravity's Rainbow and The Crying of Lot 49 could you get something in the world of Anderson's movie, a black radical leftist who was also not above having a good time, strategically, I might say, with, the head figure that's going to represent the military throughout this movie, who's played by Sean Penn, who is in full Popeye mode here. He is like a walking Charlie horse who, because Paul Thomas Anderson really has a Robert Altman, one of his icons here, and a person he has channeled throughout his work is Robert Altman, who's, one of his most notorious outings as a filmmaker is this live musical version of Popeye, a well from which he has taken many a drink throughout, his career. And I just feel like this version of Sean Penn in this film, who is just all muscle and has, something like the Popeye haircut when the hat is off, it's not a joke.
It's easy to forget in the last 10 years or so what Sean Penn meant to movie acting culture, and that he occupied a very rare status that included people like Marlon Brando and Daniel Day-Lewis, these sort of commanders of screen. And because of maybe some of the choices that he's made as an actor or whatever details we learned about his personal life, we forgot a little bit. And
he let us forget because the roles weren't there anymore.
He did. Paul has always said that he's always wanted to write a big part for Penn, and that this was their chance to finally come together and do something. And It is among his best performances, and this is a guy who has 2 Academy Awards. And he is, it's a weird movie where the 2 most powerful people in the movie are not Leonardo DiCaprio in the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, and maybe not even the third. Maybe Benicio del Toro is the third.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, this is a really like a spring-loaded explosion of heavyweight performances that are going in the movie. And Penn also, because of his own personal radical politics that also have gotten kind of increasingly blurry in the last 10 years, it's like, is he like a Lockjaw type now? Or is he somewhere all the way on the other side? Like, the movie is kind of like poking you with all these provocations based on what we know about these people in real life too, which is only something kind of magical that you can do in casting.
It's probably useful to just talk about like what happens in the middle of this movie with respect to just what the tide of the plot is doing. And, you know, we wind up 15 years later. We haven't even said what Teyana Taylor's character's name is, by the way.
Say it.
It's what is it? Perfidia Beverly Hills. Yes. I mean, that is, if she's not taking Patty Hearst away from Daddy, I don't know who is. And, you know, she's off somewhere else. We're 15 years into the future, and Leonardo DiCaprio is no longer, you know, the explosives expert. He looks like he's been blown up. He's just sitting around, not really doing anything, raising this 15-year-old daughter of his who is now played by Chase Infinity. And, you know, I mean, we're increasingly aware of the stakes of the entire situation, which is that the government has not stopped looking for this DiCaprio character, whose name now is Bob, who's living a regular schmegular life in what we come to learn is a sanctuary city. You know, his daughter Willa is now taking, you know, she's a student, she's a high school student, and all the stuff that comes with that turns out to be pretty funny. And she's taking these karate lessons. And, you know, at some point the government figures out where they are, comes to try to find them, takes Willa, and Bob now has to spring into action to try to get her back, and winds up the only person he can think to turn to is Willa's karate instructor, who is played by Benicio del Toro, who is wonderful and, you know, wonderfully zen, I should say. And for a while, the two of them are kind of on this adventure to get him closer to the daughter. And what this means for DiCaprio is he's got to remember all of his old leftist radical tendencies that he hasn't had any contact with in 15 years. And it's such beautiful comedy. This guy, like this stoned, couch-bound, berobed guy, like figuring out like what even the code for the meetup point is, which is a recurring motif in the film. He's calling this number.
Hi. What's up? What's up, homie? It's me again, Bob Ferguson.
And the person on the other end of this activist, you know, this leftist hotline is like, "Sir, what's the code?"
I think we got off on the wrong foot. I was trying to get the rendezvous point for my daughter,
right.
Willa.
If you can't answer what time is it, I cannot give you the rendezvous point. This is a key tenet of the rebellion act. I'm surprised you can't name it.
And he's like, "I don't know the code. Just let me in, man. I can tell you everything else." And
it's like, I've killed my brain for 15 years
Yes,
with
yeah.
alcohol and drugs.
I'm a drug and alcohol lover, and I cannot remember for the life of me or the life of my only child the answer to your question, what time is it?
And the comedy and the scheme of this movie, like the hold music, is the revolution will not be televised. It is just, it's not afraid to laugh at the things that can be funny, and knows enough and trusts us enough to know what is truly terrifying about our current circumstances. But there's something about the bumbling nature of the DiCaprio character as he's moving through all these grave circumstances and having it not quite register, like the gravity of it is not occurring to him. And he is frequently told to or forced to observe what the stakes actually are beyond him. and his family. And there's a scene, like my favorite scene in the movie, where DiCaprio turns to Del Toro to help him get on the path of figuring out what happened to his daughter.
I need you, brother. Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob. Courage.
That's it. Courage. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. God damn it! Viva la revolution!
It's one of the moments the movie is at its like most tense. And Del Toro knows that this siege is happening on the town that where he's keeping these people who've crossed the border into the US. And he's been hiding them in his house for, who knows how long. But they're a part of this community that he has built in this building. And once you get there, there's a moment where DiCaprio's freaking out.
I need a weapon, man. All you got is goddamn nunchucks here. You know where I can get a gun?
Bob, cool out. Ocean waves.
And he's just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. He's loud, he's screaming. And Del Toro turns to him. He didn't even turn to him. He just says to him at some point, hey, don't be selfish. Or is that the line? Hold on, let me get it right. He says, don't get selfish to Leonardo DiCaprio. And he's taking him up through the apartment because he's going to stash him for a minute. He's going to give him a place to stay while they figure out what to do. And DiCaprio's like, we got to go get to where you're going to stash me. And Del Toro is like, wait a minute. Here, you're passing all of these people who live in this apartment. And Del Toro and the camera stop at each one of these people and he names them and introduces us to them. And they just kind of look up. They're just like doing whatever they were doing in the apartment, eating, playing a game, I don't know, talking. And I can't tell you how moving and beautiful a moment that is in the middle of this extremely stressful situation, that this movie has remembered what normally would happen here, which is this is a literal pass-through on the way to something more important. But for these 90 seconds, this is the most important thing, white man. You're gonna know the names of each one of these people. And then we're gonna solve your problem, but you just need to know these people have problems too. And
it's the flip side of the radical politics that we see in the first 45 minutes. It's the same sense of curing injustice, but doing it in a completely different way. That it is human decency, compassion, and personal relationship as opposed to direct action and violent conflict. And the movie's not saying this one's better than the other, but it's saying this is two sides. They're interwoven.
They're interwoven.
And Sensei is trying to make Bob remember like what's at the core of what the movement is supposed to represent just by being himself and just by being in his community at this incredibly stressful moment. Now, I will say, the first time I saw the movie, that scene you're describing, I was like, get on with it. Like, I need this guy to plug his phone in so he can call someone so he can get his daughter. And so the movie, it never lets go of the urgency that Bob has during that scene, even though it is showing us Sensei's incredible patience and decency and desire to situate Bob inside of the community that, like, he's obviously a leader of. This is, again, like, very nuanced stuff,
right, but I mean,
in the middle of a chase action movie.
Right, but it's like, you want to talk about family separation? I'll show you some family separation, motherfucker.
Totally.
Just look down this hallway. These people are facing the same shit that I'm about to help you deal with. To me, you are just another migrant.
It's totally true.
So you calm down. I'll help
living
you.
under a false name.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm helping you, but just chill.
So the first time I saw the movie, I saw it at the DGA, and Steven Spielberg interviewed Paul Thomas Anderson after the movie, and they talked about this aspect of the movie a little bit. And what Steven Spielberg asked about was kind of Benicio's energy. And PTA said that it was very important for Benicio to not be infected by what Leonardo DiCaprio was doing as an actor, which is incredibly nervy and jangly and loose and kind of moving all over the place. And Benicio said, stop me only if you feel me absorbing what he's doing, because I want to be still.
Yeah.
I want to be calm. And I do want to talk to you about Leo, because you are the master of understanding actor and actress career arcs. But he's in this mold right now, this wave of performances. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Don't Look Up, certainly this film, where the kind of nervous
Killers of the Flower
drama.
Killers of the Flower
and Killers of the Flower Moon
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
You know, like all of these guys are all funny, but also sort of pathetic and tragic. And this being how he is turning 50 is so interesting that this is the kind of character that he is drawn to at this stage of his life. He has heroic moments in this movie, but he's not the hero.
He's not the hero. And the heroic moments, again, they're accidents, right? Like there's a sequence where he's running across the roof, like running across this rooftop with these 3 Mexican kids, and they're like cool skateboard kids, right? And like they're like 3, you know, like a mile ahead of him, and he's just trying to keep up in his bathrobe and his ponytail and his unwashed ponytail and the sunglasses. And these kids are just, it's nighttime. This is a beautifully photographed sequence. Looks great in 70 millimeter IMAX. And the kids, you're not sure what, it's shot just ambiguously enough in the dark so that you don't exactly know where they're leaping to, what the stakes are up on these roofs. But surely they're not all connected because we're not in Philadelphia or New York. And sure enough, these kids keep running. And DiCaprio is like running, and all of a sudden he realizes he's out of roof, and he just falls
through a tree.
He just falls through a tree.
It's such a great, the laugh got choked in my throat when it happens. You know, you're so concerned for him, but it's so funny. It's pure Looney Tunes.
It's actually
sequence.
pure Looney Tunes with stakes, because it's a little bit like you're still laughing, and like the minute he hits the ground and tries to get up, he is tased and seized. I don't know. I think that there's something about the way he is using, Paul Thomas Anderson is using DiCaprio as a movie star, right? He's the bait that gets switched, right? You come for that giant poster head, and you get a movie about Teyana Taylor and Chase Infinity.
Yes, and that carries through the movie. But what the movie reveals is that certainly what Thomas Pynchon thinks, and I think what we sometimes think and may actually be true, is that the world is organized, divided, and run by secret societies. And on one side, there are these leftists who have this hotline and have this code of ethics and have this interconnected network that exists across at least 15 years that we see. And on the other side, we have these figures, the Christmas adventurers, who get the problem of the movie into action, which is they invite Lockjaw to be a part of their society. And that triggers Lockjaw remembering the potentiality of a problem that he needs to solve in the form of Willa and Bob Ferguson.
Right.
And that's why the government comes.
Who are
and that's why,
DiCaprio and his daughter, played by Chase Infinity.
Exactly. And these are all secretive environments where big action, meaningful life stakes action is happening. And most people would never know that it exists. In the case of the Christmas Adventurers, it's the most skull and crossbones thing you could possibly imagine. And the whole movie is organized around the fact that this is all happening under our noses, you know, which is just such a clever idea that is so modern.
I would like to sit with this Christmas Adventurers situation for 1 second.
Sure.
You know, it is definitely a like Knights of the Brotherhood of hanging black people and killing Latinos, denouncing the American Indian experience, and, you know, who knows what else. But thank you for reminding me of this whole other plot strand and connecting it to the thing we've been talking about, which is that Sean Penn's character really, 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 his ultimate mega dream is to become a Christmas adventurer, AKA, you know, a KKK member.
But of a high order.
Very,
you know,
no,
like,
these people don't wear sheets. They wear their own faces, but they meet in, you know, this, one of the leitmotifs of this movie is tunnels, right? Tunnels and caverns and back rooms. And one of the great sequences in this film is the first time that the Sean Penn character meets the Christmas Adventurers. The background for this encounter, it features Tony Goldwyn, which, you know, I did not know Paul Thomas Anderson watched a lot of television, although it stands to reason. He is married to one of our great television personalities in Maya Rudolph. Personalities like artists. But he has definitely seen some scandal and knows the power of having Tony Goldwyn represent anything official. And the idea that this guy is also one of these people.
He's a comic figure playing a deeply malevolent secret society member. This is the kind of mischievous stuff that Paul Thomas Anderson does that other filmmakers do not do. You know, Tony Goldwyn, you might say, oh, this is the guy from Scandal, or this is also the guy from Ghost. You know, this is one of the key movie villains of the last 40 years.
One of the great movie villains. Yes, yes. Well, I mean, key is maybe the better word to put it, or better way to put it. I think that just to stick with this scene for a second, there's something so I don't know, suspenseful, a little scary. I mean, these scenes with the Christmas Adventurers especially are like tapping into this kind of dread. In part because all you're really hearing in those sequences besides dialogue is air, right? You can just hear atmosphere, and underneath that atmosphere is just a very persistent and somewhat simple music that Johnny Greenwood has done and a frequent Paul Thomas Anderson score composer. Part of the reason, a huge part of the atmosphere in his other movies comes from Johnny Greenwood. And it's really effective in this movie because it's just kind of moving you along, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's just this tapping, almost clock-like metronomic sound that occurs for most of the movie's runtime. There are some strings and there are some other instruments, but a lot of the driving force of the score is percussive.
Yeah, you get a little bit of the David Shire, Michael Small 70s kind of piano, these like isolated piano notes that are meant to just kind of drive like a sense of conspiracy around us.
Anyway, I love that sequence, in part because it is terrifying for its intimacy, but also I also love it because Paul Thomas Anderson finds these ways to inflict comedy on it anyway. I was just thinking about this is the first movie he's made that's set in the present in 22 years, 23 years. Punch Drunk Love is the last time he worked in a contemporary period. And I think a lot about what it means when directors, especially white directors, hang out in the past. And what it is they're looking for, what it is they're hiding from.
I know what it is in part for Paul Thomas Anderson.
Okay.
Cell phones. Smartphones. Smartphones, for most filmmakers, let's set aside maybe Park Chan-wook, are tremendously uncinematic. And the experience of being alive right now is being attached to a device. And often not making eye contact with those you are with because you are looking at the device. And filmmaking is a head-up medium. You need to be connecting with the camera.
Right.
And if you watch this movie, even though you know it's in 2025, these are ancient phones that people are using. They are talking on the phone a lot. They are not looking at their phone a lot.
Right, right.
And I find that to be very, very notable in terms of PTA deciding to finally make a contemporary set movie.
Yeah, but the reason I'm bringing this up in terms of thinking about what this movie's about and what it's trying to do is that I feel like this is a person, either because of his household or because, he has lived in that city of Los Angeles his entire life. And you live in Los Angeles. It seems impossible to me that if you're an artist and you make things and you live in Los Angeles, it seems very difficult to live there and see what's happening and not want to try to find a way to have your art respond to it. Even if you fail, even if you wind up making a perfectly on-the-nose, obvious McObvious movie, you've at least said something and put on the record what is happening in this country. And specifically, if you live in Los Angeles. And this, to me, feels like a guy who couldn't take it anymore. This movie is such an incrimination of so many other people who make things and claim to care about, people, humanity, this country, or whatever. Because, when people do it, they do it as an allegory. They do it, this is a movie about this country and nobody's wearing a cape, right? There are no heroes. The right thing is seldom done in it. And the wrong things are catastrophically, cataclysmically wrong. They are wronger than any single individual action. This is a system crushing people. And I just feel like this is probably the only one of these we're going to get this year at this level. And I think it is a real dare to his peers, and I mean like his immediate cohort of filmmakers, to do something and say something.
I have paired this movie in my mind with Eddington quite a bit.
Yeah. Ari Aster's Eddington.
Yes.
Which is another contemporary thriller set during the pandemic. It does not work.
I really like it. It didn't work for audiences, obviously, because no one went to go see it. But I think that's a movie that is, I think, sincerely trying to grapple with a feeling. But what it ultimately does not have, that this movie has, is that this movie is shot through the prism of a family dynamic. There are parents who have concern for their kids in Eddington, but this movie, the entire emotional relationship to the movie will hinge on how you feel about Perfidia and Pat, and then Bob and Willa, and in some ways Lockjaw and Willa as well. And that is what Hollywood is best at. It is confronting you with the realities of our world artistically through drama. You use the word melodrama in your introduction about the movie.
Yes.
And this is a melodrama. This is a story that you get caught up in. Yes. You want to know what happens. But if you stop for 1 minute to think about what he's trying to say, I don't think what he's trying to say is clear cut.
No.
It's not message bound, right?
That's an unanswerable question.
It's a little bit thornier than that, and it is much more relationship focused, but the circumstances of the story are undeniably about contemporary times, and maybe even all times, just in terms of how power works, how people get the things that they want, what happens as you get older and your relationship to the world changes. I find all of these things incredibly resonant for me. And the other thing that I really like about the movie as a longtime fan of his is I feel like he has 3 phases as a filmmaker. One is this whirling dervish, shot out of a cannon kid who's watched every Scorsese movie and is like, I know, I got all the moves. And I'm putting all the moves on screen. I'm 26 and I'm putting all the moves on screen. Second phase is retrenchment, trying to figure out what's really inside him and what he really wants to say. It starts with Punch Drunk Love after the quote-unquote failure of Magnolia. And then The Master and There Will Be Blood twinned together as like explorations of the male psyche. And then the third phase is about intimacy. Phantom Thread, Licorice Pizza, Inherent Vice. These are movies about damaged relationships and damaged people. And this movie is about
in all kinds of ways
of those things.
Too, right? Yes. Interpersonally, nationally, politically, spiritually.
And does this new movie, is it as you asked, is it his crowning achievement? I think it's going to be interesting to watch how the world receives it. There's obviously a narrative that this is going to be the it's time moment for him with the Academy. There's interesting potential commercially. It's a movie that satisfies in a unique way. It's not as mysterious as some of his best work.
And I think that's for a reason in some way. I think this is a person who has just decided that he doesn't need a bag of tricks here. Like, he doesn't need the surrealism. He doesn't need the magic realism. He doesn't need the mystique. Because, part of the problem with the way the American story gets told is nobody is really very explicit about what happened, right? And these relationships stand in for a piece of a whole. We haven't even talked about, there's a like Native American tracker in this movie who has a very important function, right? This is a movie that really understands the whole of the story, and like the whole of the story in terms of, it being centuries old and in terms of it changing every minute in 2025. And I don't know what a frog bath would get you here. I'm sure he could have figured out a way to do it, but I think it says a lot that he didn't even risk it. I think this is a guy who, I mean, he really wants to say something where without the style getting in the way. He wants to use the style to deepen the movie in a from the standpoint of it's like the humanity that it's earned in terms of how it's forging some relationship between us and these characters, and the stakes for them. And that to me feels like a corner got turned for him.
I think you're right.
Okay, this is it. We're done.
Is there anything else I need to say?
I'm going to say goodbye to you.
Fantastic.
Okay, Sean.
Wesley.
Thanks for coming in and doing this.
Congrats on being you.
What's that mean?
It means you're the best.
Thank you. Congrats on being you too. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.